I do with my book? Hi, we're
Well,
live.
hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where everyone is in the world today. And as I just found out this morning, because I try to keep track of these things, but I do tend to forget.
Mhm.
Happy Thanksgiving to our friends in Canada. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day and happy Columbus Day to our friends in the United States. Hope it's been a good long weekend for y'all. This is kind of like your holiday season, right? Like there's a lot of holidays between October, November, beginning of December.
Well, in full transparency, what we do here in the Shift and Co. every holiday we're creating. So yes, but we're moving into that beautiful season. I've
Mm.
been making beautiful maple apple crisp and banana chocolate chip bread, and we're
Ooh.
out and picking up the leaves that are starting to fall, and we're getting into it. Halloween parties and already planning our Thanksgiving, which is in November, and then of course Christmas and New Year. So yeah, it's a fun time. It's a really
It
fun
is
time.
indeed. What I kind of love is that even though in South Africa our holiday season is kind of different because um, we December time it's kind of like everything kind of goes dead because it's our summer holidays.
Mhm.
But what I find so interesting is both the southern and northern hemisphere this time of the year really feels like it's about family and getting back
Yes.
together and doing that kind of thing. It's
And I
beautiful.
was just going to say very quickly, when we talk about holidays, so much of it, our mind goes to the commercialism of holidays, but we really hold true to tradition. I still bake things that I helped my mom
Mm.
when I was a kid. I have a homemade candy brittle that everyone that tastes it wants me to market it and go into the world with it because it's the bomb. You won't ever eat anything but and so it really is like, I have pictures of my kids getting ready to pass out from a sugar high, testing it all. And, but it really is, it's about family and
Mm.
bringing those special people in your home and creating an environment that's just full of gratitude. And I have a very small group of friends that we share our holidays with. They come actually into our home after we have like morning breakfast on Christmas. And um, we really talk about how grateful we are for our lives and our health and one another. So it's a special time.
Well, hopefully we can all hang on to that love and that joy as we move through the rest of this year. I'm sure we are going to because I know there's a lot going on out in the world, but at the same time, it's just good to remember that at the end of the day, it's all just about the individuals. It's about the
Yeah.
people who mean a lot to us and
Yes.
extending that out.
Yes.
Now, on that note, very
Yes.
excited about the topic today. Laura, you picked it, so why don't you
Yep.
lead us in?
Yeah. So I was speaking with a client this past week, and she was bringing this issue at the moment up, and it made me think about a few things. And I'm talking to a few global mastermind connections about this. She went to a party, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a small table of people gathering, and there was a few siblings there. And the way that the evening began to unfold is the ribbing and the patterns of negativity amongst the siblings, but the general feel and flow of everyone. She realized that everyone was, it wasn't that they were down, that they were negative in a mean way. It was just this manner of being. And she so wanted this evening to be just full of laughter and joy and ease. And she found herself starting to judge the people around her and feeling that why aren't they happier and what is wrong with them. And of course, because of the coaching, we had to bring it back to self accountability and not
Mm.
what was wrong with me, but what is in this outward observation that usually turns into judgment, that also hooks us and locks us into the pattern of negative mindset. And then we begin to stay in, to connect to our patterns. And then the whole evening, and she found herself being very much kind of dragged into the energy, that environment of not so happy. And so we worked on this, and of course we ran through the J3 = E, which we know is all in the science of empowerment, and it was absolutely so transformative what happened at the end of the session, and how she was able to recalibrate observation. Really, for a lot of moments in our life, is judgment in disguise. Like, well, I'm just observing that, but it really is a judgment against either people or the environment. And I'm not talking about observing a beautiful sunset and all of that. We're talking about how our mindset can sometimes put us in a state of delusion, and we think we're being one way, but we really still are resonating within a pattern.
Yeah.
And how to up level this awareness that I'm still doing something that they are too. We just feel, because we're observing it, that we're at a higher frequency, but we're not. And then she went to another gathering, because it was a big family weekend. The next night, completely ran through the formula, had the most transformative experience. She said, oh my goodness, what a difference, because it began to show her where she was still judging, therefore hooking herself into patterns rather than recalibrating the patterns. And it was amazing. It just was amazing. So I was thinking about this, for all of our listening community, and how this is part of self evolution and collective elevation, moving through these very normal aspects of our life, the human condition, whether you're showing up at a barbecue, a holiday, a gathering, and how quickly patterns lock in. And then what can we do to raise the frequency very quietly around the collective? And the second night, it really helped. She was able to stop a pattern for herself and two other people, just by being aware and shifting the conversation ever so slightly. It brought up the entire experience. They didn't know, the other people, but she did. And it began to teach her how her value into the collective really matters.
You said something a little bit earlier on that I kind of want to pick at for just 2 seconds, because this story just is so incredible, because I know we can all relate to it, because we've all been there, right?
Yep.
You walk into a room, the energy feels off, and you're just like, ugh, do I really have to deal with these low level energy people today? Like, why, right? But you used a word there which is so accurate. It's resonating with that frequency. And in science, we know that when something resonates, right, the overall frequency gets stronger. It doesn't plateau, it gets stronger. So if we walk into that kind of situation and we're resonating with the energy instead of shifting it and diffusing it, all we're doing is making that energy stronger. And actually, I have a similar story. I was visiting my girlfriend's family. I think I've mentioned before, they own a pub here. And there was this group of young men who came in. It was a bachelor party. And as you can imagine, bachelor parties get rowdy. And there was one member of the party who was, I could tell from where I was sitting, was probably feeling a little bit left out. Like, he was trying to get the attention of everyone in the group and he just wasn't getting it. I felt like maybe he was a late addition. This was just things that are going through my head. Mm-hmm. But as the night wore on, he started to get a little bit more rambunctious than one would like, right? And my girlfriend's mother was getting more and more upset, and I could see this, and she'd go over and talk to him and be like, "You need to calm down. I'm going to kick you out. This is what's going to happen. Stop your nonsense," kind of a thing.
Right.
And I could see she was angrier and angrier and angrier, and the more she was getting upset, he would apologize each time, and his behavior would just get worse every single time.
Yeah.
And eventually she goes, this is it. I'm kicking him out. And I said, let me try something for just 2 seconds. And I walked over to the group. I said, hey guys, how's it going? Bachelor party. And they're like, yes. I'm like, who's the lucky man? It's that one over there. Great, great, great. So I'm chatting, and they actually had been there the night before. And as like a not just a thing for them, there's a huge fireplace in the pub, and they asked if they could barbecue some ribeye steaks.
Oh,
And we all thought it was just for them, and they actually walked around the pub with boards offering to everyone in the whole restaurant,
nice.
try some of the steak, which was, I thought, a really nice gesture.
Yeah.
So I turned to the guy who was being over the top, and I could see getting a little bit more emotional than he should be. And I said, listen, I know you've been a little bit, getting out your box over the last hour or so, but I actually just wanted to come over and say thank you so much for last night. That steak was incredible. And you didn't have to do it, but I saw you like going to each person and just, offering of this meal that you'd taken time to cook for your friends, and you were offering to everybody. And I just wanted to say a really huge thank you. You're a good person. And he
Wow.
looks at me and he goes, oh, thank you so much, and da 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 da. The whole mood shifted instantly.
Yeah.
He went from trying to get everyone's attention to literally just, I could tell all he wanted was a little bit of being noticed, being seen. That was all it was.
This is
Yeah,
such an amazing story around this topic because as soon as you were telling the story, first of all, the pub owner, right, was matching the frequency without even realizing it. So him
right.
being a bit obnoxious and his energy, feed me, give me attention, here I am, whatever that was. And sometimes alcohol exacerbates and magnifies what's,
Absolutely.
hidden. She was matching it. And then here you come in, right? And there's wisdom and there's insight, and we move in this way of being. And by you going over to him and saying something kind, acknowledging something of himself that he gifted. And again, this is all on these layers and inside of us that we're not always aware of. He was acknowledged with kindness and appreciation and gratitude. Now, and I want everyone to really listen to this. It isn't what you said, how you said it was the energy of what you said and how you said it. And he picked up on the frequency of thought. It wasn't, oh, look at this man, Stefan, that just came over to me and praised me. It had nothing to do with that. Is you
No,
went into the environment of his frequency, kind of cut through it, and then brought in gratitude and kindness. And that resonates at a different scale than loud, boisterous, obnoxious, wanting to be the center of attention. And this is one of the skills that the community now can take with them that we're talking about today. You have the ability, the potential, the capability, whatever word resonates with you, to actually shift the environment first and foremost within yourself, then with your friendships, your family, your coworkers. When you're out in public, I want to share a story very quickly to back this up. And you and I have talked about this before. Dr. Wayne Dyer, who is a very well known author and speaker all over the world. He has since passed, but he is amazing. Any information, any books that anyone can read that he has written, it is well worth your time. He did an experiment one time, and I believe it could have either been his daughter was at college or he was giving a speech somewhere, and there was a very large gathering that was getting way out of control. where people were thinking, maybe some physical altercations were going to start.
Mm.
He not even meditated, but we're going to use that word for a minute or two, almost like you did. He saw something, his awareness clicked in, and he began walking through the crowd, not one word, but moving his body and the frequency of kindness and calm and peace and quelling it down. And do you know that not only did people start physically moving to almost welcome him in, but then people started coming up and saying, well, who are you, sir? Or what are you doing here? Are you looking for someone? Everything shifted because one person changed the vibration of the environment. Now, again, we're not saying if there's something that is unsafe, don't think that you
Of
can
course.
just go through and, calm it down. We're not talking about that, which would be beautiful if and when we all can resonate at that level to calm the masses down. But yes, think about when you are, for moms and dads listening, or people that are in guardianship, even young people who are in our community, and you babysit and you get kids that are starting to throw a tantrum or throwing toys or not wanting to share. Think about a way of, rather than, stop that, Johnny. You're going to go in the corner. You're going to go in your room for a timeout. You're meeting the frequency and you're matching it, which is
Yeah.
magnifying it. Instead
Yeah.
of getting down on the ground and trying to find a way to recalibrate the situation. So, this is a really great conversation of how we all can change the vibration within ourselves when our mind starts bringing us down a chaotic path, a path that has distortion to it, and how through our mindset we can begin to really shift this. And this might be a really cool moment to talk about the J3 equals E and give our community a quick viewing of how to move through these principles to do this so that this week, when situations come up, they can run through the principles and actually feel in real time what this is to empower yourself in any given environment.
This is what I'm loving about this because, and actually I was about to say I would love to talk about the science behind what actually happens when you change the frequency and energy of yourself. Because first of all, we know that the J3 equals E formula in real time allows you to change your mindset, right? And we know that mindset affects your body automatically, right? If you're in a happier state, your shoulders relax, you feel better, you're more open, right? If you're tense or you're anxious, shoulders come up, you closed off, your body language changes. What we also know scientifically is that the body creates a bioelectric field,
Yeah.
the frequency of which shifts according to your mood and your thoughts. And that's literally how you're able to change the energy around you of people around you and cut through things, like you said, not necessarily just with the words, but actually coming in with a different energy. And sorry, I'm feeling a little bit like the wording that I'm using is going to get confused because I know that the word energy is often thrown around in very esoteric terms. But in this, I actually do mean the physical energy that your body gives off, right?
Right.
If and actually coming back to what we said at the outset, we've all had that where we've walked into a room and gone, oh, you could cut the tension in here with a knife. Now, you haven't heard a word that's been said. You have no idea what's going on. You just pick up on subconscious cues, usually people's body language, but more often than not, what frequency their bodies are vibrating at. And again, I use those words in the scientific terms, not the esoteric ones. So again, having those scientific principles of the J3 equals E formula from the Science of Empowerment, which literally shows you how to shift that in real time, allows you to become just more in control of the energy that you're putting out, as well as the energy that you're allowing in.
Yeah,
I hope that that
that
makes.
was yeah, that was very empowering. Thank you for that. And again, to our community, listen to this podcast for this exact reason. You're learning so much new knowledge that you can apply to every moment of your day. If you wake up in a bad mood, if you stub your toe, you hit your elbow, if your partner, your kid, fill in all of the human condition that right can trigger. So this is really cool. So airplanes, we talked about this, right? They have what they call a Faraday cage. It's kind of how they
Yes.
explain. And this is exactly what it does. It prevents the entry or escape of electromagnetic fields. So the electromagnetic fields within that are there for protective reasons, and ones from the outside that we do not want to touch us, right? Because they begin to distort. So think about yourself as an airplane. Think about the mechanism of landing gear, of flight, all the instruments that can create this machine, i.e., the human condition to soar and take flight, or that can ground us due to outside elements. So when we're all flying in an airplane, the reason why that Faraday cage is created in the engineering of the plane is so that if you're flying and a bolt of lightning hits the plane, the point of wherever it hits, the mechanisms, the engineering within the airplane know how to move that bolt of lightning out, say to the wings, and disperse it out so it doesn't cut into the instruments. It doesn't alter the safety of the experience of being in flight. This is the human condition, what we're talking about. The J3 equals E is your Faraday system. When you
Yep.
start to apply the principles, all right, and I'm going to tell you what they are right now, and maybe one day we'll do a whole podcast on the J3 equals E so the community can really understand, right? But this is awareness, right? So wherever you are, you're going to put that awareness at a frequency. So you're not judging, you're not getting hooked in, but you're actually just viewing your surroundings, and you're viewing them for a reason. So that you then move into the second principle, willingness. I am not willing to get hooked in to the frequency of negativity. I'm aware of what's going on, and I'm willing to recalibrate the situation. Then we move into the third principle, right? Accountability. If I match the frequency, I am now just adding into the collective negativity, whatever that may
Mm,
be, right? An argument or a disruption of some kind, or again, if Stefan went up to this guy like a big pub bouncer and said, "Hey, dude, you better get your act together or you're getting the heck out of there," he probably would have been met with same energy. But because
exactly.
you went in and you greeted him with a calmer, a more elevated awareness. I know something maybe is not quite right. He's drinking too much or he's getting upset. I'm going to show him gratitude and kindness. And that automatically, now that doesn't mean that every situation it's going to work, because someone could be so hot headed that it would take more work, like on Stefan's part, to bring the frequency more in alignment to the collective environment. But here again, he was aware of something. He was willing to say, rather than meet the energy head on, let me recalibrate it. Accountability is a beautiful part of the J3 equals E because it also keeps you in line with what's going on. It wasn't,
Yep.
oh, I'm magic and I'm going to just bang, change all this. It was, let me try something. I know what that feels like to be in that environment, meaning the way he was behaving. But let me see if I can change it. but by holding the accountability to knowing that we're never better, we're never up, we just have a new awareness that can help us recalibrate. Now we go into critical thinking. Stefan took the emotionality out of it, did not meet wall to wall, right? He didn't take a bolt of lightning and hit it with a bolt of lightning, right? He took the emotionality out of it and said, hey, thank you. I recognized you did something really kind. You gifted everyone with these delicious steaks around the restaurant. You didn't have to do that. You could have kept it just in your own group. That was so cool of you. Thank you. Immediately, that compassion, that kindness reverberates at a higher frequency. And a side note, if you don't understand all of the levels of frequency and electromagnetic fields and human vibration, it's okay. Allow the information to come into your mind to recalibrate how you think about this. Now we go into energy. And Stefan absolutely neutralized the situation. He did not take negative or even positive. He didn't go right into like, hi, and all like balloons and party attitude. He understood this guy was in a negative state of frequency. I need to neutralize it with compassion. And then a more positive outcome had its opportunity to be born. So remember, your Faraday shield is the J3 equals E. Any given situation, you run through those principles. And Stefan and I have done this in literally 3 seconds, 12 seconds, 30 seconds, or a minute. We've
Yep.
talked about it just going through. You can work them very quickly and it will change. Now, for most of us, you move through it with practice, with consistency, and then your life becomes this resonation of higher holding. And then when people are around you, they're not so apt, number one, to behave in those mannerisms and or try to hook you in. There's this shield around you where people start to realize there's something different over there. Now, it either disrupts them more because they're resisting it, or they want to gravitate towards you. And the minute they resist it, this is where you bring it back, your awareness. They're in resistance. What am I willing to do? Neutralize the resistance. How do I know? Because I'm accountable to the experience, because we all know what the human condition does to all of us. How do I neutralize it? By critical thinking, i.e., mindset, empowerment, taking away the emotionality, right? Like really diffusing, like letting air out of a balloon, energy. By neutralizing, choosing the field of neutral energy, which technically is not a quantum field of energy, negative, positive, but the J3 equals E brought in this neutrality so that we have a moment to recalibrate the energies. Now we go from negative to neutral. We have a more of an opportunity to go into a positive environment. So
Mm.
thank you for allowing me the opportunity to explain a little bit about the J3 equals E.
No, it's very, very, very appreciative of this. And just by the way, for those of you who are interested, we actually did some deep dives on the early chapters of the book in a different series, which we're going to be uploading to the channel in the next week or so. So when you, well, like and subscribe as always, because then you'll be able to get access to that and get notified as soon as those are live, because those were really powerful as well, as we literally just work through the principles and work through the chapters. And I started to apply it in my own life and seeing how it just started to shift literally everything. But I want to bring one other thing up, because you said something there around the accountability factor, recognizing that this is all part of the human condition, that we've all been there at some point in time, which is very true. It's impossible for you to recognize behavior in someone else as positive or negative unless you've had the same experience yourself.
Mm.
Now, I bring that up because one thing that I learned many years ago in a different course that I was doing was, and they called it just very simply, creating a different story.
Mm.
Because we do this all the time, right? We create stories in our heads just automatically. So, for instance, if you're at the doctor's office and you've got a 12 p.m. appointment with the doctor, and it goes 12:10, 12:15, and in your head you're like, wow, no respect for anybody else's time, probably sat in his or her office playing games or making illegible scripts out for people. I mean, seriously, like, how difficult is it to stick to a schedule? Or you could go, oh gosh, they must be really busy with something important. Maybe there's someone who really needs extra time, care, and attention, etc., etc., etc. Now you're able to bring that compassion in. You go in with a lighter mood, right? You
Right.
go in with much more open, what's the word? An open heart, essentially.
Right.
Um, Same thing with, and actually, there was another example in the same book. It was, imagine you go for a job interview and the person's late. Same thing, right? And you're like, seriously, like, how difficult is it to stick to? I'm here, like, what the heck? Or you could just be like, oh gosh, they must have hit really bad traffic, or maybe they got called into an impromptu meeting. I'll, see if I can get hold of them, or we can reschedule, or anything along those lines, or maybe something happened, or there's any other number of more positive, compassionate stories that we can create in our minds instead of going straight to the negative.
And this is such a great example because think about this. Let's say you are waiting for your interviewee to come in and they don't, if they're late or they don't. Think about how that sets up the rest of your day or going into your evening. It does something to you, and then you bring it in the car with you or on the train or the bus or the subway, and then you bring it home with you. And this is why we become these algorithms of patterns, and then we act them out through the behaviors because we allow other people's energy to have effect on us. And when you
Yep.
really become empowered and you use the J3 equals E formula and you move through this, and Stefan and I do this formula all the time. We use awareness and willingness and accountability and critical thinking. There's times where we're even in our strategizing meetings and we have big lives because of all that we're creating, and we literally have to bring it down, remind
Yep.
ourselves the gratitude and the compassion to one another and what we are doing. Again, the beautiful part about the Shift and Co. and all of the podcasts, we are actually creating and living, and I'll even dare say experimenting with
Mm.
everything of our life so that when we talk to our community, it is 100% authentic. We're not reading someone else's material. We're not listening to someone outside and then trying to duplicate it for our empowerment movement, for elevating community that we're creating. We really are firsthand digging in the dirt, molding the clay, tilling the soil, engineering, redesigning consistently because we want to elevate one another and all of the people we come in touch with. So, this is such an empowering, I think, kind of golden thread through everything we do. And all of the people that are coming in and building this community with us, you now have this threading, you have this frequency of the Shift and Co. in your very essence. It is now a part of you. You are an empowered human being. You do not have to settle into arguments and distortion and actually sometimes quite destructive patterns in your life.
Mm.
Use this the next time you and your partner are getting into a little bit of a riff. Think about, whoa, wait a minute. I'm aware that we're in a pattern. We argue about this all the time. What am I willing to do? I'm the one that's going to begin to offer empowerment frequency into this relationship. And think about this. How many people, if we were in an argument, we plant that flag, we will die on the mountain to defend our position. We will not be the one to show compassion, to change our state of mind, right? We will just dig in deeper. And this is where elevation and self evolution come into play. When you put the flag down, when you sit rather than stand on that. And again, we're not talking about, there are moments in life where you absolutely need to defend the cause. And
Of course, yes.
we kind of understand where we do or don't do that. We're talking about this everyday experience in the human condition and how to
Mm.
truly elevate the frequency of all of this community so that you can then guide and explore with your family, with your partner, with your coworkers, with your religion, with your school. You can begin to experience what leadership feels like. Leadership for a reason, and that is to empower the global community so that we can start to shift a lot of the distorted algorithms that are in place. So use this formula in everything you do. Use it within yourself. If you're driving down the road and you're angry and you're frustrated and someone, like you said, didn't show up or you couldn't make an interview, think about calling someone and apologizing and taking accountability. It could even be as simple as, I slept in late and I know I messed this up, but please allow me another chance. I'm learning, I'm growing. You will be amazed at when you shift your language and you take
Yep.
accountability and you're willing to move through things, to become accountable, to take the emotionality out, to be a critically thinking individual, i.e., self actualized thinking human being, your energy will begin to neutralize and you will have positive outcomes. This is the beauty of the formula, and this is the empowerment at the foundation of the Shift and Co. and this community.
The other thing that I find so beautiful about the formula, the J3 equals E formula, is, it's not something that changes you immediately. It changes a situation immediately the
Yeah.
first time you use it, but it's usually around about the third or fifth time that you use the formula that something magical happens, where it just literally becomes a part of who you are. And then suddenly you're able to use it without even realizing that you're doing so. And then when there is something maybe a little bit bigger where you're like, what do I do with this? The first thing that comes to mind is, oh, well, now we're going to consciously run through the formula.
Yeah.
And you're gonna diffuse this situation. You're gonna neutralize and turn to positive this particular energy that's coming at you.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful journey because so often we undertake new self-development projects and personal development in ourselves, and the question that we get, well, that I've heard so often, including from myself, is, who will I be once this is done? Right? Will I still like, respect, recognize this person? The beautiful thing with this process is you will absolutely love them. You are absolutely going to just feel like a more purposeful human being, because so often we run through life and life happens to us.
Yes.
Not It's not us actually taking control and creating a outcome that we want, right? And this formula gives us that ability and that power to just live in a happier state of being. I'm not saying that I live in a state of blissful joy 24/7, and I wouldn't want to. Sounds boring.
No.
But when
Right.
challenges come my way, it's so easy to look at them and go, oh, got this. I've got this. Let's
Can
keep
you
moving forward.
imagine? I'm so sorry. Can you
No, no, please
imagine
continue.
giving someone the key to unlock a door that actually empowers you while you're in physicality, not dreaming about it, not goaling about it, not following, some guru and magically wishing for things to happen. It is a key that unlocks your own human potential. This is
Yep.
you empowering yourself. This happens to be a formula based on principles that have frequency. When my brother, Chris Brennan, created this formula, which was the inspiration to the science of empowerment and all of my coaching, all of speaking, and everything that we do here at the Shift and Co., it's at the foundation. When I started applying this and realizing what this actually did, I cannot tell you, I felt like I won, $100 million in the lottery. Energetically, it was that equivalent, because what this does is it allows you to take every situation and recalibrate it into something empowering. It absolutely does. Even financial, when we go into the Wealthy Mindset podcast, when we're going to talk about this also, it is this state of mind where all thought is created. And if you understand that you are the engineer and the designer to how you think about thought, you now can pull in this incredible system to begin to think differently so that you can actually manifest and attract things to you. And we don't have time now. This is not off and fluff talk. There is actual science that they can measure frequency of how to attract other like frequencies to you. This is powerful. And this is the beauty and again, the power of what we're all building. You are
Mm.
going to learn and hear and be guided, and you're going to contribute with us by asking questions and starting to become a community that builds on itself. We are in real time designing a new movement, creating a new energy. We are elevating and uplifting one another just through the words that we're talking about. And very quickly, and I'll end with this, and I'm going to do more research on it. I just read how when someone speaks with a higher vibration thinking that holds a higher mindset, one person can resonate at 750 frequencies and actually pull up like 700,000 people. The space between
Wow.
one person holding a level of frequency can affect. I don't even understand it, which I have to read about it. It is amazing. So be that person that holds that frequency within your family, within your church, within your religion, within your school, within your work environment. Be that point of empowerment. Play with it, have fun with it, become empowered by the J3 equals E. Read the book, become part of this program, share this or this movement and all of what we're doing, and be a point of light in the darkness, in the distortion. And this isn't meaning you're better than anyone else. It means that you are learning how to fine tune the frequency of your awareness to any given environment so that you may contribute value, principle, laws of attraction, and compassion into the collective and actually create something that means something to the whole planet.
I phew, could not have said that better myself. And I actually, well, I know that I've seen this happen in real time because I had a housemate for quite some time who, let's just say that he was emotionally volatile. Let's go with that. So, not a bad person or anything, but just anything small would kind of set him off and he would just get very tense and very angry at himself and the situation. And it's just not a nice energy to be around. And I tried speaking to him, I tried different language, and nothing worked. And I decided one day that I was just going to meditate on being joyful for a week. That's all I was going to do. What the frequency of, so every time I would sit down to meditate, I would literally just be like, joy and compassion. I'm just going to sit and meditate on that. And every time my thoughts wander, I come back to what is the frequency of joy and compassion. Within 4 days, I think it was 4 days, three or 4 days, his daughter came to me and asked me if he'd started some form of medication. And I was like, what do you mean?
That's great.
She goes, no, no, in all honesty, like, I'm a little bit worried. Like, have you asked him to take Valium or something? Because he's just, something's off. And I'm like, well, he seems happy. She goes, no, I know that's what's wrong. I don't understand this.
Oh, that's fabulous. Wow.
And
Oh,
that's
that's
literally all
great.
it was. Because, but I also then realized, because after my meditation, and this is what that saying means: be the change you want to see in the world, right? So when he would kind of tense up and get angry and all the rest of it, I would either withdraw and tense up and go kind of into my space and, try and remove myself as much as possible, which then is also not the right thing in this particular instance. Or I would get grumpy and just be like, ugh, really, do you have to be like this again today? You know? But just doing this practice, I then noticed that when I'm done, I get up, and everyone knows on the show that I love to cook. It's my personal passion and joy. And I would put my headphones in and I'd put on happy music and I'll cook something nice and I'll be dancing in the kitchen. And he would come in with a scowl on his face and I go, hey there, how are you? Dinner will be ready in an hour. I'll be right with you. Do you need anything? And he'd be like, huh? What? Oh, okay. You do you. And he'd pass her off again. And I just realized, like, literally just that being joyful myself, it's a higher frequency. Anger, hatred, depression can't exist long in a space that is naturally joyful. It can't.
And this brings me to, I wrote about this in The Science of Empowerment very quickly, about the water experiment. And we are
Mm,
made up of more water than we realize. And they took this pure water from a part of the world, they put it in, certain containers. They had people speak beautiful words into the water on one container, right? They spoke terrible words, literally from you are godlike, you are beautiful, you are pristine, to I hate you, I want to kill you. And right, really went positive and negative full on.
mm,
And I'm moving quick through this, but the experiment, and I write about it beautifully in the book, the water that was spoken to with negativity turned this very
yeah.
distorted brown and black, and
Mm,
it almost became distorted, like my face
yeah.
just did there, because the thought of it. And then the water that was spoken to with compassion and love, they actually measured like snowflakes, like
Yes.
they
The
turned into these,
particles.
oh my God, these geometric shapes that you just don't even know how anything in the world could create such beauty. And they had like pieces of gold that crystallized around them. And I want you all to understand that, even though this is a short, quick moment of explaining this, how we talk to ourselves. First and foremost, this is not a selfish act. This is the act of a compassionate human being. For when we experience true happiness, true joy, true recalibration of our own empowerment, we then hold that resonation, and we are then able to guide others. By Stefan holding that
Mm,
joy with his music and cooking and dancing, when negativity walked into the environment, it wanted to disrupt the joy, but it could not. He either repelled and went into another room, or it brought him up a little bit. This is what we're trying to explain: how we speak to each other, how we hold the frequency of our own container will have positive causation out into our environment, small environment, our home, and then it will ripple out. It is important that each and every one of us understands that we are here, right, in physical form to evolve. That is why we are here. We are not here to stay in unhappiness and to be
no.
distorted with algorithms and behaviors and patterns of negativity. It is absolutely quite the opposite. Change your mindset, become an empowered individual, use the J3 equals E right now. And if you don't know what it is, order the book, read the book, reach out to us. We are here for you. Change your internal environment, and it will change everything that you begin to reflect and interact with outside of that internal environment.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I did lose track of time for quite a bit
Oh,
there.
me too.
But thankfully, Laura and just wrapped up everything so perfectly there. So If you take nothing else away from this episode, please just go listen to those last couple of minutes where Laura was just sharing bountiful blessings, really, for everyone. On that note, as always, please do be certain to like and subscribe and share with your friends and your family and colleagues, etc. If you found this valuable, please note in the description, as always, there are links to our social media, as well as the link to purchase the book that we spoke about so heavily today, The Science of Empowerment, which Laura was able to write and share with the world. And please do leave comments and send us messages. We love to hear what you would like to hear about next, what you thought about this. And we just hope that everybody's enjoying the community.
Wonderful. Have an
Thank
empowered
you so
week.
much. Indeed, indeed. We will